A really big key success factor was that we chose to work with an external company, people who are specialized in exits and as external consultants. Because during the time you are working for the exit, you also need to continue the growth, because nobody buys a company that's growth story is stopping.
Climbing up, there's a struggle, tension in the air. But the underdog prevails, we here to declare. To the top or the mountain where champions stand. Failures can't break us, we taking command. Yeah, it's a journey, climb to the peak. Scaling businesses, who it ain't for the weak. Growth is the game, we play it real tall. From the bottom to the summit, we rise, never fall. Interview the legends, success stories told. Risepreneurs, hearts made of gold. Strategies unfold, in the struggle grace. Hardship and challenges, yeah, we still embrace.
Welcome back, everyone, to another podcast show, Risepreneur, a show dedicated to business owners and entrepreneurs who's looking to scale, grow their business, ultimately to exit at the highest valuation possible. Today, we have a special guest, Patrick Löffler. He is the co-founder of Givve. At the same time, he's an entrepreneur and a mentor to a lot of other entrepreneurs. We will be picking his brain today to see what his journey was like. He had to experience successful exits, and that's what we ultimately after as entrepreneurs starting our businesses, our ventures. So Patrick, can you introduce yourself and we'll get going?
Yeah, thanks, Baruch. My name is Patrick Löffler. I live in Munich, in Germany. Long time already. I'm 45 years old. I have 2 children and a wife. The children are 12 and 8 years. And I founded Givve, which was named Bonayu in 2010. So if you can calculate fast, the children grew exactly up when I founded the company. And everybody listening to this podcast probably know it can be a hard and tough time, also money-wise. So it's still the same wife. Says a lot.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's for sure. Everyone can relate to that. I have 7 kids. I'm about the same age as yours, but with my ups and downs and being involved in many startups, experiencing my journey, I know exactly what you mean. And it's also the same wife. We're going through challenges always at some point. So yeah, money is not something that consistently goes up. It's a wheel. They say it's a wheel of fortune, right? So we all experience. And the more we make, we also adjust our lifestyle. The lifestyle does not stay the same. And then when you experience a little downfall and you have to dip into your savings and change your lifestyle, it's painful.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. So then let's, if you don't mind, go back to your childhood. Can you tell us a little bit more about how did you discover that you're an entrepreneur? I did see that you own a bar or restaurant at the age of 17, if I'm not wrong. So can we go prior to that? Who were your parents? How did you get that idea that you can start things and be an entrepreneur?
You did your homework. I'm really impressed. I did several podcasts and nobody tried to go back that fast. Let's see how that goes. That's new for me too.
Okay, let's do it.
I grew up in a very small village in the Bavarian forest. It's close to the Czech Republic. It's between Czech Republic and Austria. And before the East opened up, this was really the end of the Western civilization. And my father had a company. He was an entrepreneur producing plastic part for bottles, the caps for bottles and stuff. And he was the biggest entrepreneur in this area. And I always only was the son of my father because everybody only had interest in my father and to get a job there. This was not an acceptable childhood for me. So the earliest I tried to find my own way. And for me, that was sports. I always loved winter sports and I was really good in snowboarding. So already with 15 years. I was part of the German national snowboarding team.
That's impressive.
And I was traveling a lot, and there was a good support from school. So I could really miss a lot of school. I still had to work hard, but I was traveling all the time and tried to, because outside of this little village, nobody cared what my parents are doing. So it was only my performance and my will to train and my discipline that counted. And this I liked a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. What about your mom? What was she? And
She was staying at home.
okay, so she looked after you. Okay, so you
Yeah.
basically, at what point you decided that I'm gonna follow footsteps of my father? Reason I'm asking is I have kids of my own, and the oldest one is at 17, getting close to 18. Initially, when I introduced things to him, he was excited and followed my lead. And at some point, a few months later, he decided that he wants to do it by himself. Like he doesn't want necessarily leverage everything that I can just give him as a base to use it as a springboard to go higher. He even to put the base himself. It's
Yes.
you know what? I have my own. I want to pursue it on my own.
But that's the best. Then he's going to be successful, actually, because that's the will to show yourself and not use somebody else's success for a springboard. It could be clever and maybe it can work for somebody, but I would guess for most, it's best to find your own ways outside of your families. There are a lot of families who work great together and where family business continues over generations. That can work very well, obviously, but to find your own way, for me, that at least was the right path to pursue. And yeah, my father, they tried very early because it was a family business to put me on that way, but yeah, no.
Did you get any support when you initiated your first venture from your father being a guide? Did you use him as your compass on how to navigate and get things off the ground and become successful?
That's a very delicate question. I would immediately say no, because also I didn't want to again. But in the end, the core values you get from your family, they are there. And my father is also a person who is very positive and benevolent. So he's very giving. I love this value actually a lot. And on the other hand, he has a good or very strong self-discipline. And I think this combination, it's something that's a strong base, and I only can value today. That's the base they gave me.
Yeah, I think that's more than enough. I personally follow similar footstep. I have my core values actually written on my refrigerator. And all of my kids know the core values because that's a foundation. That's what's important to us. That's what will drive us forward. And whatever we're going to do, it doesn't matter. As long as you bring those values to the playground where you are and share those values, that matters, right? So glad that you were able to adapt those and those guided you through your journey. Next question for me would be, how far did you get with that restaurant? At which point you decided to transition, exit it, and what that looked like for you?
Hang on. Sorry, I need to go back to the values because
okay, sure.
in the end, I had a very highly paid and super good job at an American New York stock company based venture with 10,000 colleagues, but they didn't have the same values as me. And actually it was not the idea of the gift card or something. I wanted to create a company because I wanted to work or to create a place where I can work. I created it actually for me because I wanted a place where I can every day, no matter how good you have good days and bad days, how good or a bad day I have, I can be myself with my values. And fortunately, we were 3 founders, and the third one, Alex, with our CTO, with whom I don't share a lot. And we only found out after the second co-founder was gone that we actually shared these core values. I'm working with this guy for now 14 years without having a friendship, but I would say something that is as of the same value, because I can work with this person for 14 years and create a company culture we both share. And that's back to the parents and these values. So they, I mean, it's a long time that they follow me through my life, or I follow them. That's just important to close this topic a little bit. And
Yeah.
I remember still your question about it was not a restaurant, it was a bar.
Or a club. Okay.
And it was, sorry, go ahead.
No, if you mentioned about values, totally, again, it resonates with me as well. Being involved in so many startups, I would say majority of them did not work out because of clash of values. What was important for one party was not important for another. And at the same time, when I had full-time job, last time I had a full-time job back in the year 2000, it was exactly that. The company was about 100 people. We don't even know what their core values were there. There were a lot of cliques, people getting credit for things that others didn't do. So it was just not something that was aligned. And to add to what you're saying, that when you find somebody and surround yourself with people that align with your values, you become extension of each other. You're like one unit operating a similar way, because what's important to you is important to everyone in the organization. I for sure embrace and value exactly that. And unfortunately, in many businesses, when we work with them, those values either do not exist or they're somewhere in a drawer and nobody really being recognized or expressing those values besides and basically it doesn't get them far.
You put it so perfectly, and it sounds a little pathetic and it sounds like peace and love, but actually that's it. So many people are now, or leaders or managers, they want their people back in the office. I ask myself, why? If you are really a purpose-driven, value-driven company, I don't need the people. Okay, if you're production, it's different. But in our fintech thing, I don't need the people in the office, because I don't even need to say the word trust. It's just everybody works for the same thing with the same values. Everybody can do it from anywhere. And I like to see them, and I personally like to go to the office, but everybody can do his thing if they know the purpose and the values, and if they are lived well, and if you have the right people, that just works.
Yeah, and we'll come to that once we get in timeline. I'm going to pick more of my brain on that. No, you're amazing. What we'll do is I want to make sure that the audience understand that it is possible, and we're going to talk about how exactly you made it work for you and shared things along the way. So let's go back to that bar. What happened there?
It actually, I was doing in Munich, this was a thing to organize parties. And while I was studying, I quit the snowboarding when I started studying, but I wanted to earn some money and do something cool. And that's when I started a monthly party thing with other friends and other students. It was called Dark Club, and we did it once a month in changing location. And then it turned out there was the opportunity to have a bar in an old building that would be teared down. So it was always clear it's a 10-month thing, and then it's gone. So because to work in the gastronomy or hotel business, this is huge respect for everybody who does that, but that's just too hard. It's
too much to bear. Can you share
Wow.
what exactly you found extremely difficult?
You work when others party.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And that's when you work. And for me, this was too much a possible trap, because then you mix work with partying and then all goes Studio 54. That's just too much, but it all gets crazy. There's people partying, you work, then you sleep a lot because you worked at night. Oh my God, this creates a big mess, because normal people, they are awake during the day, but you are not. So it's a really to get your life together and to be there when everybody's there. That's really tough for people who work at night.
Agree. Recently, my father's still in the hospital, so I stayed with him at nights and I saw the nurses and others working
Wow.
night shifts. I actually physically asked them, I have no idea how you do it. You got to be so disciplined to sleep during the day.
Oh
and
my God.
You have
Yeah.
other things going on. You have kids, you have chores, you have a household. Yeah, got to give them a lot of credit. I have no idea how
Yes.
they're able to pull it off.
It's the same thing. Yeah. Wow. That's actually impressive.
So was that something that pushed you to go into college, or this is something that you did while you were in college?
Yeah. It was something I did while I was in college.
Okay. So I understand why it was extremely difficult, because college is during the daytimes and you have to also have to do homeworks and stuff. Okay.
And I never earned so much money than with the bar, actually. That's crazy, because everybody knew it's only there for 10 months. And I did it with two ladies that were very well connected in Munich as well. So it was full from the first day on, and everybody knew, oh, we have to party because it's only there for 10 months. So that was a huge success, but it was unreal.
What comes to mind is sometimes I come across businesses where they have a contract, major contract. And the question is, what are you going to do after the contract is over? One of the things we learn as entrepreneurs, we don't want to be in a position, yes, you make maximum, but it's like a ticking bomb, right? Closer you get to the end of the contract, that you will not be able to sustain your current setup once it's over. So you're going to either shut the doors, or you have that time to go out and sell like crazy, bring additional business. That contract will become insignificant.
Super prominent example for this is Peloton, the home trainer company from the States.
No.
It's Peloton. Yeah, it's super successful in the States, and they're also in Germany. And they got hugely successful during COVID because gyms were closed. So people bought these workout bikes. It's a workout bike with a screen, and you have trainers that train you. And they sold so many bikes. It was always sold out, and they started to build their own factory for producing bikes, because they thought even after COVID,
it would be sustained.
And then when the gyms opened back, everything got back to normal, and they are still there. And I love doing Peloton my own, so I follow the company closely. But it took them years. They only this year, or at the end of last year, they sold this production site, which they never really used because the demand just normalized out. So that's exactly what's going to happen when you miscalculate and when you ride this big wave of super big contract. Yeah, that's a danger.
Agree. And that's another thing we see with businesses. They're not really forecasting. They're not really evaluating the trend, what's coming, how long it's going to be. Is it something that you jump? My personal experience, I opened a furniture store like that back in 2006 when the real estate was on it didn't even cross my mind. I was a programmer, web developer. I opened a business with high-end furniture. We did good for maybe a quarter. Next thing you know, the lights were shut off, right? The mid 2006 is just, there was no business. Nobody was coming in. You actually see people complain left and right that they lost money. That's when we found out about the real estate crash, and we just could not sustain it. I was working as a programmer to pay bills in the furniture store. It just didn't make sense. Ultimately shut down. So yes, forecasting, understanding what's really going on in the market, protecting the company.
That's a very important point, and I want to emphasize this. Data still is king. And that's why a digital business like ours, with very disciplined, data-driven decisions, is highly probable successful, because if you base your decisions on super good data, which allows you to do a thorough forecasting, you can do good budgeting, you can do good investments, not always, but mostly. So data, I repeat, really, for even if you're only starting up and you're 2 people or alone, please gather data about what you're doing, compare it historically, look at the data. Everything is going to be so much easier.
Yes. Tracking on the financial, agree on the operational, and even efforts, right? Many companies don't do that. So they don't even know what they're spending. Is it an investment or it's an expense? So if you don't track, you're just playing poker. You just bluffing. Sometimes you get away with it, and sometimes you get a smack back. I agree with you 100%. Data is king.
Sometimes bake it until you make it is also a good strategy, but
Only gets you
please
so far.
look at the data. It's all there.
Yes, especially if you're looking to grow and scale, right? You can't grow, and if you'll grow, you just keep on diminishing your margins, and at the end of the day, your operations will be way too heavy and will be always higher than what you're actually bringing in, and you'll be forced to go raise more money, dip into your savings, and ultimately reach a plateau, burnout, and exit. Not a good exit, of course.
Yeah, and a super good example for that is, if you look at the data, again, I repeat this now 3 more times, then I try to stop. But at one point in our history, I'm now already at Givve, it was just not working out, and we had to raise the prices. In the beginning, we charged €8 for a card, and I knew we need to charge much more because we had a customer service. We wanted to invest and develop the product further. We wanted to automate. We wanted more investments in tech. So I said, hey, the card needs to cost €18.50. And by this, we were, 5 times more expensive than everybody else. And one day I just decided, hey, from today on, we just changed the price, everybody. And exactly that day, our then biggest customer, not yet customer, called, and we had a very good talk. And in the end, he asked the price, and I was really sweating because I told everybody, hey, we are selling for this higher price. Now I have a big client on the phone, which we could really use. Which price do I tell him? And I knew if I would want the others to also stand behind the higher price, I have to do it. But I was so scared to say, instead of €8, €18.50. But that's exactly what I did, because I thought, yeah, fuck it anyway. So let's try it. And I said €18.50. And do you know what happened?
They agreed.
Yeah, nothing.
Awesome.
Nothing. We sold exactly the same amount of cards. Exactly nothing happened. Just we had enough, that's when we were not break even yet. But this put us on our trajectory to get break even. So look at the data, think about your pricing. Don't fear prices. Make tests. You can A/B test the prices. Everybody does it. Nothing is going to happen, I promise.
Awesome. Great example and proof that it does work. And in your case, it was not 10, 20% increase. You more than doubled the pricing, right? And you were at the crossroad. And also based on like you said perfectly about A/B testing, many entrepreneurs afraid to raise pricing. They think that I'm competing on price.
Oh.
Worry more about the value that you bring to the table. Try to get that perceived value higher, so then you can ask for higher price. And like you said, split test, take a little segment, See if you can test the price, increase 10%, see what's going to happen, increase another 10%, see what's going to happen. Keep on increasing, have a calendar of those increases, and see where you're going to start seeing a decrease in your conversions. Then maybe reconsider and maybe start looking at how you can increase the perceived value even more in order to continue increasing. So there's nothing wrong with increasing pricing, and people that would not sign up, people that agree to pay the higher price, they will compensate for that. You would still be profitable. And as a matter of fact, people that pay you higher will value even more than those that would nickel and dime you.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough. If you sell something for 10 euros or if you sell something for 100 euros, you need 10 times the customer for the same revenue. So just go, I'm exaggerating now, but go for the 100 euros. And if your product is not worth that to your clients, then you can't, I'm convinced that you can make up lost quality or lost innovations with price anyway. Then you are on a losing track. So make a very good product, charge a price that fair and that is fair to your product and to your team. You want to have good personnel, which you have to pay fairly, and that's reflected on the price.
Awesome. Agree. Wow. Thank you for sharing. This is a great lesson for everybody. Again, if somebody wants to understand how that works on a deeper level, they can always approach their leadership. They can hire somebody, a consultant, and actually create that and see how the perceived value can be increased so you can charge higher. We don't have to be competing on the price with all the competitors. See if you can uniquely position yourself so you can charge higher. And with that, like you said, Patrick, they can offer more to their teammates because their profit margins will be much healthier. You can introduce more R&D, improve what you're doing, automate more of things that requires technology. So there's funds for everything, right? So that's how one of the ways to create it. So can we go to the place where you graduated college? What happened at that point? Like, how did you get to a place where you decided to go forward with the idea? And like you said, there's 3 co-founders, right? So how did you connect? How did you decide that we're going to do this together? And like you said, you were not aware about values at that time, maybe consciously. You did not know one of the values of one of the co-founders, right? Only after one exited, that's where it was magnified to you. So how did you connect? How did you decide that this is it? I know it was not an easy journey. You experienced downfalls. You tried to raise and recover. There were a couple of near bankruptcies that you were going through, right? So I would love to know more about how you start. What did you face initially? How did you overcome those things?
Yeah, to answer correctly, after college, I started a corporate career Actually, I started in controlling, but after 2 years, I was internally headhunted by the European sales guy, and I did a really good career. And the US companies, they are really good. They give you a new title every 12 or 24 months, a pay raise and stuff. But one day I was actually sad that my company car has a smaller motor. It was gas cars at that time. I had a smaller engine than my colleague, and it took me 1 or 2 days to get into my head and say, Patrick, you are really thinking about engine sizes now? You are completely, that's not life. That can be your fulfillment to get a bigger engine. If that's life, then I already lost.
Wow.
And that's when I decided, hey, I have to leave. I earned a lot of money at that point of time, and I left on a very friendly way. I said, because at that time I was managing the European sales team with big key accounts. Yeah. And then I told them, hey, I want to leave, not because you are bad, because I have other things I need to follow, but I want to leave on a very friendly note. And they said, hey, if you do a really thorough handover, it is going to take 6 months. We're going to pay you 6 months afterwards so that you can full pay for the car and everything, but you don't have to work anymore. You can search where you want to go next. And that's what I did. But only 3 days in this journey, an old friend of mine called and said, hey, we have this startup, but we need to pursue another idea. Can you please stay for 3 months? I know that you're doing nothing currently. And that was 3 days after the 6 months and 3 days in my 6 months where I wanted to really think and meditate about my future. But only after 3 days, this person called and asked me to lead this small startup in Munich. And I said, oh, okay, why not? And it was something fully digital, which I was not. This was 2000. I was coming from the fast moving consumer goods market. So a fully digital online startup was something new for me. So this was a great opportunity. And the 3 months turned out to be a year, but I gained a lot of experience. And in this time, many people approached me and presented ideas and asked me to be a co-founder. And this one guy, Christoph at that time, convinced me with his idea. And after I handed over back the startup to my friend, I started to work with Christoph on this gift card. At that time, it was called Bonayu. And Christoph said, hey, I have a great CTO. It's Alex, you need to get to know him. And Alex and me, when we got to know each other, we said, oh my God, it's serious with this guy. And it was mutual. I will never work. Maximum 6 weeks. That was clear to us. That's not gonna work out. Alex is the guy with whom I'm working now for 14 years.
So the Christopher, I guess, was the link between two of you.
Yeah.
And you were so different that you did not even see how you could possibly be together.
We still are super different. But core values, as I said, he loves discipline. He loves automatization. In the end, he's a very tough, but in the end, he's a super benevolent guy as well. So here we are. That's a crazy story. Every time I tell it, and I told it maybe 100 times, but still I get a lot of
That's
feelings.
a rare find where you can get along with someone on such a level.
Yeah. It's crazy. I guess we never can end it now. So yeah.
Keep on growing. Yes. So when you started this and it was just 3 of you, so Alex was handling all the technology side of things.
Yeah.
How were you positioned in Christopher?
Christoph did a lot of we thought that was when it still was a gift card. It was a gift card that was redeemable anywhere. So you could buy it through the internet and I could send it somewhere instead of flowers and personalize it through a website and write a little greeting card and even put something in. We had nice boxes. So it was a B2C
model
business actually. Yeah. But we were super naive. Yeah. I still am sometimes naive. Yeah. Okay. That's how it is. But I thought, hey, okay, we buy plastic cards from MasterCard and sell them. I had no idea it's crazy because you touch so many laws and MasterCard doesn't sell cards directly. So you need a bank, you need to have a banking license yourself, or you need to partner with a bank. It's crazy. So Christoph was handling a lot of this banking relation stuff and I was doing a lot of marketing, sales, investor relations, buying toilet paper. So everything the other two wouldn't do. Yeah.
So you complete each other. Everybody knew their part. Everybody contributed to the bigger picture and you were moving forward.
Yeah, but Christoph and me, we have a business background. So actually only when at that point of time, I thought we need a homogenic team. We need people with the same background more or less. And only when Christoph left and when Alex and me were the left ones, only the business actually took a steep upside curve because Christoph and me, we were too homogenic. We had the same background. We were good in the same things, and that's actually not helping. It's easier to communicate. It's easier to understand each other, but it doesn't create a lot of heat because Alex and me, we are so different. So when we had to discuss only one sentence, both of us were heated. It was super intense and cost a lot of energy, but it created a lot of new things.
Yes. Yes, because that's how you get to the truth faster, not when you're agreeing with disagreeing.
And that was also a lesson learned. Then it took some more time to really get this realization. But nowadays we really try to recruit people who are different. I would, if I have the choice between somebody more like me or somebody super different, I'd always nowadays go for the super different.
So basically the lesson we can learn here is you can have heated discussions, argue, but you still maintain mutual respect for each other and come up to a point where you would compromise on something and decide that would be the most effective approach for us to take now. And we, after the arguments are done, we're all on the same page, we're aligned, we're moving forward.
Exactly. And it goes back to the beginning of this podcast. The core values need to align. That's the minimum. But the rest is best if it's really far from each other. So you don't need to be on the same wave, maybe not even the same beach, but the same planet.
Yeah.
At least the same planet, I would say. It helps with.
It's totally fine. But there's a lot of teachings and different also coaching methodologies where you have a founder and you have an integrator. Like the founder mindset, they like to be creative. They want to come up, they want to solve, but they're not necessarily structured and be diligent. So that's where you get somebody who is more structured. They could bring that into fruition and they can be consistent. So when those two marry, having the same values, they can really produce a lot. Because for a founder mindset that likes to create, they're not necessarily good at following through because they're the idea person, right? It's like, again, example we bring again and again. It's a composer versus conductor. Conductor brings what the composer produced and make sure their orchestra follows and produce that music, right? So this setup.
Hang on, I need to interrupt you.
Go.
But I'm not, because another thing I learned is that idea and creation is king, but execution actually is King Kong. Somebody who is super creative, but not disciplined is somebody Alex and me could never work with because discipline for us
is everything.
It is consistent discipline and execution in the end. We are doing this for 14 years now. That always wins. That in the end, it's not spectacular. And somebody who is super creative can be super spectacular. It just doesn't work in how we are working. So our focus totally is on a super solid execution. Execution.
So who's the idea guy? Like how you come up with the solutions, how to solve? Who came up with the idea in the first place? What was it, Christoph? Like how did you
it was Christoph.
Into that? So he was on the creative side, came up with the idea, and he brought you, who's more structured and disciplined, to take it to the next level. And at that point, once you had a product, he was able to step aside and let you run with it. And now more or less you're just tweaking and optimizing it better.
To work for Amazon at a very critical point in time. So I don't have a lot of persons in my life with whom I never speak again. But unfortunately, Christoph is one of them because it was a very bad timing when he left us. In the end, it was good for the business, but you are right. Execution, what I said, it counts when it's super tough. You can't find a creative solution around something that's horrible tough. If you go through hell, keep walking. What else would you do? You don't want to stay in hell, so you need to keep walking. And that's something I highly value, and that unfortunately not super creative. And there are so many companies. Instagram, if I remember the story, it was a software that had more than 70 users, but they also got money problems. And the two co-founders, they needed to concentrate on something. And they said, hey, let's try the photo sharing and forget the rest. Only when you start to focus and to execute, that's when success happens. I'm no believer it happens through super creative, craziest ideas. Maybe in the short beginning, the first 2-3 minutes, but the rest of the 60 minutes of the full hour, that's execution.
Yeah, it's critical. I see the value of both for sure. Just to be the idea guy and just talk, just to talk and come up with solutions, but not actually executing will not get you far. You for sure were completing each other. But for you to walk through hell, like you said, you really had to believe in a product or service. You had to believe in what you have created to keep you going, right? At the end of the day, growth needs to be in place. If it's not there, you start to wonder if you should still keep on investing. So how did you keep on going forward, walking through hell, and what kept you going? There's only so much you can tolerate ultimately, unless you see the light at the end of the tunnel. What was your light? Where were you heading? What kept you going?
To be super honest, it was not the light, but it was the lack of options. Alex and myself, all our savings, everything at that point of time, and 3 or 4 years of our life. And when you're 30, when you invested 4 years into something, it sounds like a lot of your life. So we had so much skin in this game that the alternative, that it doesn't work out, was not an alternative.
Interesting.
It was the lack. There was no exit. We both knew we need to
Figure it out.
somehow
Make it work.
get out.
Somehow make it work.
Somehow make it work.
So who came to the rescue? How did you get out of those situations where you had such a, like at the downtime where everything was like falling apart?
It's always multiple factors. And one factor, for sure, the character of Alex and myself, to just not accept this failure, which I value, because Alex could have left, because he's in this space in Germany, in fintech, he's probably one of the top 5 people. So he always could have easily left, and he never did. So
Wow.
that's
Loyalty.
awesome. Yeah, it's amazing. And on the other hand, we then had some investors, one namely Thorsten Jörn Klein. He's a tough one, but also super fair one. Andreas Werning. We had some really good investors then that also pushed us somehow through. So
They were just
it's a
silent
combination.
investors, so they actually were involved in the business as well.
We tried to keep them silent, but they involved themselves, which in the end was super hard. But in the end, that also helped the success, actually.
I was once at a similar position where we started the B2C business. We were brokers shipping cars back and forth. Ultimately came to conclusion that running multiple sales offices and the volume that we needed to upkeep to hit our goals, we're not that experienced. We were techies. I was a web developer. So we also transitioned to B2B and had investors. 2 years later, so we had to exit. We got bought out. And the reason we agreed to that, because we had something unique going, we were pressured by the investors. They did not see the returns as fast as they desired. And we were like tremendously pressured to move forward and actually exit. Were those conversations in your situation similar way where they pressured you? Did they stay on board all the way? What happened then? Like, you're running out of funds. You still need to operate, and you probably already have a bunch of employees at that time. So how did you navigate through this?
We made the pivot from B2C to B2B to E. E stands for employee. Our product now, we sell prepaid credit cards to businesses who give these cards to their employees. And in Germany, you can load the cards with 50 euros per month per employee, and that's tax free. And it's a super good employer benefit thing. And we raised with the existing investors, they tried to help find additional ones, and we raised money for this pivot. And then Alex and me said, hey, this is a niche. It's a good niche. This can work. We totally focus on this. And our goal is to get to break even, to earn our own money, to not be dependent on investors' money. And with this clear objective and the full focus on this, and it's, if you're a web developer, there are always opportunities left, up, down, back, in front. And this was tough to really not take any other opportunities, but only focus on this niche product and reach break even. But in the end, this was the strategy, and this was something the investors could also see, and they also believed that this is possible.
So the pressure was on you mostly. From a technical side, once you decided that's a B2B, you go back to the drawing board, you make the adjustments in the system and so on. But now you had to pivot in your marketing and sales, right? So that was you were handling that part. So that probably also made it maybe even easier to outreach to B2B. So what that look like?
That's actually what I thought, what you just described. Also naive again, to pivot from B2C to B2B. It's also for Alex, because before the product was not reloadable and it was a one-time sale. But now it's one customer has several card holders and they get monthly reloads. So actually it's on the technical side, it was building a complete, it was completely, we had to build it more or less completely new. But this was a USP, because the competition in Germany, they were already bigger, and they were telling small customers, oh, our minimum order quantity is 10 cards or something. But we came from this one card sale. So for us, naturally, the minimum order quantity always was 1. So that's why we grew so good, because we had many, or still have many customers who start with 1 or 2 cards. But if this company manages to exist, nobody who stays longer in the market. They will grow to 2, 3, 4, 5 people. So these are sales that we have to do nothing for, because you are our client. You order 2 cards. Half a year later, you have 2 new colleagues. You order 2 new cards without any cost of goods sold, without spending anything in marketing. It's just this silent growth. Yeah. So the history we had from this B2C was actually a really helpful legacy. But yeah.
So you didn't have to look for a new business each time. You were basically getting it on the back end. The lifetime value tremendously expanded.
It's long.
So that's how you were able to... Yeah, and if it's adopted already, as long as company is in business, most likely they're never going to remove that benefit. Yep, amazing.
Exactly.
So being open-minded sometimes, just because you went into one business model, no matter how much you love you with it, sometimes you have to pivot. You have to be open-minded. It is painful, and you're not just deciding. You have to convince your investors. You have to, in your case, completely restructure everything. And basically starting completely over, because pretty much everything you used, partially some things could be reused, but a lot of new things had to be in place for you to adopt.
Yeah, it's crazy. If I remember these times, it's still crazy. Alex is also still with the same wife. And now we have our management team. It's 5 people, and Roman and Adrian, they are also there for a long time now. So they remember these times as well. So it's crazy. We survived this.
You mentioned this a couple of times. I know it's a big deal. In America, the culture, we adapting this too. The rates of divorces are growing and growing, especially families where their socioeconomics not meeting the expectations. People just easily can walk away. I know in Europe it's much higher.
It is?
Yeah, I believe where you are, it's 60-70% of the
Oh my
divorce
God.
rate. In the US, it's close to, I think it's 45-50. It's around that.
Still.
Yes, we're getting there. I was looking at a country like India, for example. Their divorce rate, I think, the lowest in the whole world. The loyalty between spouses on a different level. So yeah, it is interesting to see how not only you were able to preserve your families, you had to basically make your spouse, your kids, everybody believe in what you're doing. And it's not easy, especially when you're going through dark times. Sometimes you feel like you're the only one who believes in you. You have no support. You still have to somehow prevail and pull everybody with you, and have your teammates do the same. That's not easy. I give you that. That's for sure. So was the second challenge was prior to that event where you had to pivot? Did you experience major setbacks once you made the pivot to B2B?
Not really, because that's when
The breakthrough happened.
and it's sorry to come back again to the values. That's when the values of Alex and me and now the whole company and also the other management team members, our values, when we really could profit, because we had one goal, get break even with a very focused product. So what was asked was super disciplined, digital, automated execution. And this with being very honest in a market where, fintech, it's a lot of show and it's a lot of intransparent figures. And we always kept true to ourselves. We never overpromised from that time on. We are super true to ourselves. That's maybe not always the best for high valuation. You sometimes need to be a bit more cocky, but we decided against it. So that's when really our values kicked in. And from that point on, we had challenges and still have challenges from the outside, from inside. But now we are used to it. And we know that if we keep our cool and stick to our values,
You will
we are
follow.
going to survive this. Yeah.
You went through the test and everybody showed their true colors, who's
Yeah.
going to stick around and so on. So can we go to the time where you said we need to focus on break even, right? A lot of startups, that's their initial goal. I need to break even. I need to show that we can sustain. So how many people at that time you already had in your team?
When we made the pivot, we were 10 or 12. Then we made the pivot. And after the pivot, we went back to 4 and that's also a misconception from us, but people left because B2C and B2B, it's really, and it's surprising. It can be different people. Yeah. Some of them, they just didn't want to work in B2B, whatever that means. And nowadays B2B is way more sexy than it was at that time. So we went back to 4. So
how did you rebuild? Who was in charge of recruitment? How did you decide who would join your team? What did you look at? Was it like intentional? Not that we know that these are the values we embrace and we want only people with these values, or there were some other criteria that you would leverage to have that decision that you will be my teammate. You will join.
Honestly, to be super honest, at that point, our recruiting was not good because it was super opportunistic. We took who we could get, and in the end, this didn't work very well. So it took us another 1 or 2 years to really not in doubt, don't hire. If anybody has doubts, don't hire. Even if it sounds like a good opportunity, if there's one little doubt, don't do it. So this is another lesson we really had to learn to,
Can you give an example when you say doubt? What do you mean exactly? Nobody's perfect, right? Everybody has some kind of flaws.
Yeah.
You're talking to someone. What are you listening for? What are you looking for?
I have a good example. At that point of time, we had TVs coming in. We had 1 hour meeting, and after that we decided nowadays we do it way more different. We get the CV, we send a questionnaire to interested people, and only after this questionnaire is answered, then we reevaluate, and then we invite people. Nowadays we invite them 3 times, and they meet a lot of different team members. And that's not very helpful now, but sounds so stupid, but actually I value it and I can stand behind it. It can be a feeling. And I know this is not a super good and professional answer, but the feeling, you have doubts and you can put the finger on it. For me, if somebody says, hey, sorry, but I really, after 3 meetings, I can't get these doubts out of my system, I respect that. And then we don't do it. And this, for a long time now, this gives us a really good colleagues. And we use, in Germany, we have 6 months of, normally 3 or 6 months of trial time. And nowadays we really use this trial time. We give feedback, we gather feedback. We really try this time to find out if there is a good basis on both sides for a long working relationship. It's a relationship.
Yes.
It's a relationship. Oh my God. You don't marry somebody after you meet him once. So
yes,
clearly, and that's where we improved a lot.
Yeah. I guess it's also a culture, right? Like you hear, I've consulted all kinds of companies, 30, 40, 50, 100 people, irrelevant. So more people you have, more structured they are. But in the smaller companies, what they usually do is they have HR, they look at the resumes, they speak to someone, maybe they'll speak also to somebody at the management of the department, and you bringing this person in. On the resume, look like you're a pro. We start to work. People fall out during training. They fall out. They don't last 6 months, right? So I like that approach where you have multiple interviews to really, like even before the interview, right? One of the things we do, here's a core value list, pick top 10 that talks to you. Let's see if my core values aligned more or less with your core values. Then we look at the behavioral style disc, right? Let's see if your behavioral style matches the position that you're going for. Because if you're people oriented and this requires you to be in the back office by yourself, it's not going to be leveraging your strength. You're going to be operating from your weakness. Yes, you're telling me I'm willing to do anything, but that's right now because you really want to get something. You want to get the job, but then it's not going to be long lasting. Then the questionnaires to understand where are they with growth mindset or not, right? Are they like blaming, coming up with excuses? Are they complainers? Are they in denial? All those like red flags. So only then we have that initial interview because we see that all those things are aligned. Let's see if what you say now is more or less aligned with all the assessments that we did. If that's still aligned, let's look at your resume. Let's see if we can connect you with the department manager, have a couple of interviews there, make sure that you understand how we are. And dating part is about 30 days. We do it for 30 days. Let's see for 30 days how it is. You like it? We see what the next steps are. If not, no hard feelings, we just part ways. So waiting, it's amazing that you're willing to date longer. Obviously, if I guess if something comes out that it's not working out, you would terminate the relationship. But we usually go for 30 days. But the idea is the
Yeah.
same. You go through multiple steps to really understand who you're bringing in.
Especially, with our work from anywhere company culture, you already have to have your personality and things, because our team is super decentralized in Germany. So there are people who come to the office 2 or 3 times a year when we go out together or something. And the rest of the year they are on their own. So for that reason, it's especially important to have the people who really want this and who like this style of work. Yeah. But yeah, investing time and resources in a good, thorough recruiting is a super key success factor. But that's known, but you have to learn it for yourself somehow, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that helps with your communication and how you interact. And
with
again,
everything.
if you value things the same way, it doesn't matter what the position and behavioral style, it's going to be handled with the alignment with the corporate values for sure. Let me ask you this. Since 2000, I was always remote, right? The only time, again, I opened that business with the furniture store, I attempted to do something that's not remote. Everything I do, and you remember those days with the 2008, 2009, we had Elance, Odesk, ultimately Upwork. I leveraged that tremendously. Different countries really known for their inclination, right? So having teams in Ukraine or India or South America or Philippines. So having all this, like you said, you embracing remote, what were the tools and how you interact to make sure that everybody understands where they are? Like you said, we have the same goal. Like, how do you make sure that things are done? Maybe you can mention some of the tools, some of the platforms that you're leveraging to help you with coordinating everybody and keep everybody aligned.
In the first days of working with Alex, he said, Patrick, if you write me an email, it's automatically deleted. Email is a tool for external communications. Don't ever write me an email. And I was like, what?
Interesting.
This guy is completely crazy. Actually, I think he's really crazy, but
in a good way.
So in a good way. And so that's what I learned from Alex. And he said, hey, we have a ticketing system. And at that time, ticketing systems were horrible. I mean, I'm a business guy. For me, a ticketing system, and I forgot the name, what it was. You need a degree to handle it because it was a very ugly,
sophisticated
thing and not intuitive. But this was the basis for our success, actually, because if you write emails, if I write you an email, I don't know, did you read it? Did you forward it? What did you do? Did you delete it? But in a ticketing system, I can see, you can get back to me and have dedicated questions. And this is then documented in an email. If we do this with an email, sometimes then it may be 1 kilometer long.
Yes.
And it's nothing. It's the value of this is nothing. But in a ticketing system, I can see, oh, you add your colleague. You progress with the ticket. You now have several under tickets because this leads in the end.
Escalations and everything, right? You can
whatever. So if you really want to get work done, and then we were one of the first users outside of the US for Asana. Asana is a ticketing system. And the one day the co-founder of Asana, it's a long time ago, called me because he said, you are our first international client or something like that. Where are you? We're in Germany. And this, at that time, Asana was so much better than what we had before. But in the beginnings, Asana was also super rudimentary. So that's what I learned from Alex. And for internal communication, we just use Slack, if it's only information, and we have dedicated channels. And also one example is our management team of 5. It costs me huge discipline every day because after the podcast with you, I'm agitated, I'm nervous, and I want to tell somebody of my management team, hey, I had a super cool podcast interview with Boruk and we talked about this and that. But if I call a person, I interrupt them. Maybe he or she is doing something else and they don't actually want to talk to me, but I grab their attention. And then after I called this person, everything is out. All this nervousness, I gave it to this person. But the other resting 3 members of the management for whom this could have also, maybe there's something I learned from you, which I should share. This doesn't happen. So I really need to discipline. Don't call, but summarize the key points in a Slack message and send it to the 5 people. Has several advantages. They can read it when they want to read it and when they really profit from this information. I have to think about what's really important and bring it to the point for them. So not calling wildly people internally, but really focus on the important things and then share them in a written way. It's just so much more efficient. That's what we do. And we don't have a lot of regular meetings. When there are companies who complain because they have so many meetings, it gives sometimes people complain because there was a time where because
Especially programmers.
everything was managed. Yeah.
Programmers hate
programmers.
meetings. I used to hate meetings. I would refuse to go to meetings. Leave me. You want something done? Keep me out of meetings. Let me code. Because from this meeting to this meeting, things change so much. Like you mentioned some tools. I want to make sure that the audience captured this. It doesn't matter if you have a physical business or not. Bringing tools like Asana, Slack, Trello tremendously would help you with your communication. Like Slack, we use more for communication. It's like sophisticated WhatsApp, right? But you can integrate it where tasks being pushed to Asana, pushed to Trello. And that way we use, and it's like a message board with the task. You can tag it. You can change different statuses, set due dates. You can have a whole discussion on one task without writing crazy emails. And ultimately, if somebody doesn't reply, you lose track of it. Everything is exposed and everything in the statuses. That's an amazing, a big plus. And go ahead, tell me.
Because I see it in the big corporations in Germany, big headline, BMW now introduced Slack. You know what? That it's worth shit because the managers, they still keep calling their colleagues. It only works. And that's where discipline comes in. You know what you describe? That's an ideal word, but you are talking as a programmer now as a developer, because that's how you actually live your life. Take so much discipline every day. So the tools, it doesn't matter which tool. What matters is again, the execution and the discipline. You really have to be dedicated and willing to bring this amount. And it's a huge amount of discipline. No, I'm not calling. I'm taking 5 minutes. I'm writing it down. I'm writing it that everybody can understand it in the first moment. That's discipline. That's digitalization. Digitalization is nothing else than a very high amount of discipline.
Yeah, and cannot be without it. Like even now, I'm picturing, like I'm involved in so many different projects, so many different teams, and like each channel has its own group of people to communicate to each one. No, we're all in the same group. We have a discussion. Everybody's contributing. Everybody's on the same page. And even if somebody missed, they can go and take a look and get up to date. And we get on a call, but only if it's absolutely necessary. We get on a quick Zoom call and discuss. Again, leveraging tools again, like Zoom, right? We don't have to physically meet. Awesome. Patrick, I can talk forever about this. I would love to get to a place where I know maybe we'll schedule another one where we can dive into, we'll ask audience what they want to focus on. Can you tell us really quick about your exit and how did you position your exit? Because you're still involved and you still have an active role. What does it mean exit? You sold everything. You still have partial ownership. still have skin in the game, or it's just now you just there and exchanging your time for money? So can you bring us into that place where you decided to exit? How long did it take you to prepare for that? Because it's not something flip a switch, we got it, right? You had to convince somebody to buy you out. What did you have to have in place? Who guided you through that? Can you like walk us through really quick through that experience?
At one point in time, we had too many investors. Our cap table, we were 12 or 13 shareholders, smaller ones, but also larger ones. And we wanted to grow. We wanted to invest again. And this was not working anymore. So the initial plan with the investors was to get a strategic investor who buys out the smaller ones. And a really big key success factor was that we chose to work with an external company, people who are specialized in exits and as external consultants. Because during the time you are working for the exit, you also need to continue the growth, because nobody buys a company that's growth story is stopping. But doing an exit, it's nearly, at least for the management, it's nearly a full-time job. So having somebody externally guiding us and helping us, that was super important. And it was super important. We interviewed 20 of these finance boutiques. And in the end, we decided for one. After the 20, we had 5 who pitched. And then we decided for one. And that was crucial, because I worked with a boutique finance boutique before, and this was not successful because our fit was not good. So I knew from that experience, if we want to be successful, these external consultants, they need to fit to us as good as possible. So my advice here is, if you want to go for this route and talk to somebody external, you have to take your time and put in a lot of work in choosing one that's sharing your philosophy or things
So
that
it's
are
not just a
important to you.
consultant, it's a consultant with the finance team that can look at your financials and tell you, here's what we're going to need to prepare. Here's what the investors would want to see in order for us to exit, and certain things not in place. Let's start putting those in place. So how long did it take you once you went from identifying 20, getting down to 5, ultimately moving forward with 1? I'm working with you. What did that look like for you in terms of time? How long did it take you to prepare what investors wanted to see?
The whole process took us 1.5 years, from starting the exit process to signing the contracts in summer 2018. So we started somewhere 1.5 years before, actually. And oh my God, that was a tough process, because I said, during the day you keep growing the business, and we had so many calls at 10 o'clock at night. Seriously, this was really intense, but that's where I learned a lot. And it was an open bidding process. So in the end, we had 5 potential buyers, from banks to competitors, a wild mixture. And in the end, we did due diligence with 3 potential buyers, which was, you have the experience, I guess you have done a due diligence. It's intense, and everybody wants to know
all the quality of earnings, go through
Oh my God.
everything.
And everybody, because you can't copy and paste it, because every interested buyer had other requirements and questions and meetings. Oh, this was really crazy. And in the end, even worse, the management, we wanted to go with the buyer, but who was not willing to pay the highest price. But the investors wanted the ones paid the highest price. So we had to fight against our investors to sell to the company we wanted to sell to, which was not for the highest price. Oh my God, this was so far out of my comfort zone. Yeah, but anyway, that's to whom we sold in the end. And that's why I'm still there, because everybody sold all of the shares because the price was okay. We sold all our shares, but this company, it's a corporation, so it's owned by the employees, and it's really cool. They have the same values more or less as we do. So staying there and working, I could earn so much money everywhere else because somebody who pivoted a company, brought it through several bankruptcies, and then made some investors rich. Now it would be super easy for me to find a job where I earn double or something. Sorry, I don't want to show off.
No, it just shows what skill set you got now, the confidence. And again, once you experience and know exactly what to look for, it's for sure helping. So let me just bring out certain points, right? What's interesting to me is it's a known fact now. You can't just exit the company. If you want to exit at the highest valuation, you have to prepare, you have to be open to work harder because you have to sustain that growth. You cannot just numbers look good for the last year and just to exit, because it's not just to exit, right? What the second thing interesting is that you did not say, okay, here's where we position in terms of profits and as a value. We believe our capitalization is this much, this many multiples. That's what we're going to be asking for. You went for the bidding, allowing multiple companies to compete between each other. And that's how you had different due diligence processes going at the same time, which made it harder for you even on that end to keep up. And ultimately you said, I'm not going to be greedy because I see future and I just do not want to satisfy the investors and exit and have nothing else to do with it. And you decided to sell to somebody where you would continue your future, and the values had to be aligned, because now, even though you sold all your shares, my understanding, you said that the parent company owned by the employees. So you basically exchange your shares of this venture to the shares of the parent company. Is that what happened, more or less?
It's a French company, and I should have added it's owned by the French employees, but they are thinking about opening this up to international. For me, it's important not to have the shares, but we built this company, as I said in the beginning, because I want to work somewhere where I have my values. So this today has much more worth money-wise.
Money, yes.
Than actual money.
You get to the point where you no longer care about that Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
It's beyond the basic needs. You actually going for the purpose now, right? You're connecting to, I feel more valuable. I'm doing what I love. I get paid good. And basically you're like open to continue that way.
And I can share it. Now we are over 50 colleagues. At the end of this year, we are going to be 70. And I can have the same great culture for more than only me. And that's
and you still
as good as it can get.
Awesome. So you and Alex, you're still in control and still running everything. He basically foresee the same thing for himself upon the exit. He continues to participate in the same level. Awesome. Very happy for you. I love hearing success stories. Yes, it comes through a lot of pain. But that's what we get, right? We say no to a paycheck, sacrifice everything, have skin in the game, like you said, and get to the point where we make things work, and ultimately things work out. So what's next for you? Are you inclined more just to continue, let things be, continue growth with Givve, or you see yourself at the same time with entrepreneurs, see yourself opening and something in addition to that?
In the moment, it's the opportunities we have at Givve. We are now growing into date-related products, and lunch is also a benefit we are looking in, where we are developing solutions. It just never got boring, and it's too good what we built to look currently somewhere else. So I'm for sure
all in
for the foreseeable future. I'm all in to Givve because as I said,
you
it
build
sounds
your own
so
environment. Yes, I see.
Why would I want to change it?
Yes.
There's not really a reason.
They say when life is good, don't try to make it better. You might risk losing it. I hear you. Got it. You feel fulfilled. You keep on growing that way. Awesome, Patrick. Again, I can talk about this for much longer. I know taking away your time. Any last words you want to share with the audience? How do they get in touch with you? If they have any questions, if they want to share anything with you or run something by you, please share.
Find
And we
me-
will
find
include
me
those
on-
links underneath of the video.
Yeah. Find me on LinkedIn. That's actually a good place.
Awesome.
And I repeat your words because I will remember them. If life is good, don't try to make it better. That's actually, you and I, we are entrepreneurs, so we always try to find the things
Yes,
and
we
improve,
always
but-
think it could be better because we meant for more. We meant for more. But if you have that, and you experiencing growth, right? There's so much more that you can take and do with Givve. You can bring it to the rest of the world. It's still a challenge. It's still work. It's still ups and downs. But I love the idea. What I'm taking away is instead of having life happen to you, you said, I'm in charge of my life. I'm going to go
Yes.
through hell. I'm going to create the environment where I'm going to
Yes.
prosper and grow. And I'm going to surround myself with people that have my values. I'm not going to feel alone. Like a lot of entrepreneurs, they feel alone because they do not share the values. So you don't have to go through that journey by yourself for the rest of your life. You can create an environment where you would have all this in place. And I admire you for sharing this. And that's what my biggest takeaway, that it is possible. And the question is, what are you willing to pay as dues to get that?
Thank you, Baruch. Nothing to add, actually.
Thank you, Patrick. So let's stop here and we'll see everybody in the next episode. Thank you, Patrick, again.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.